So December 10th is right around the corner, and with it, a lot of big changes. We've got One-Eye Mask that's going to be nerfed, Xenophage is finally getting a buff, Recluse is also getting a nerf, but arguably the biggest changes coming to the new Sandbox are the changes affecting some of our solar subclasses. Today, guys, I'm actually going to have timestamps going over the exotics that you should lock down before these subclass changes go live. This might actually warrant a trip to Uncle Zer this weekend, and I'm going to try to keep things dead even between all of these. Like, I only want to pull out 4 exotics per subclass, because I mean there is a lot of valuable exotics, and I'm not saying that you can't use One-Eye Mask next season. These are obviously the exotics that are going to benefit greatly due to these subclass changes and buffs. So without further ado, guys, let's get started. So first up, we have the Hunter subclass, Way of the Sharpshooter. This is the bottom path. It has got a lot of changes. Essentially, we're going to be given a new weighted knife that will allow us to one-hit kill inside of PvP. There's also going to be some adjustments to Practice Makes Perfect, as well as a new Knock 'em Down perk, which will allow our weapons to gain stability and increase ADS speed upon precision final blow kills. Overall, I don't think we've really had a bottom tree gunslinger, or really even a gunslinger meta ever. So the exotics of choice that I would look for the Hunters next season, Ophidia Spathe is an obvious choice. It gives you an extra knife throw with Scissor Fingers, which is the exotic perk here, and considering that knives will one-hit KO inside of Crucible, obviously the more knives, the better. Now, a little note there on the weighted knife perk is that precision shot final blows will recharge the melee completely. Now, currently, the Knife Juggler perk states that precision knife kills will recharge your melee ability immediately, but this states that precision shot final blows will recharge your melee. So yeah, we could be looking in a situation where Ophidia Spathe, despite it giving us 2 knife throws, may not even be needed. But again, that really comes down to the user and how accurate you are with your throwing knives. Now, another exotic that I would be looking out for in next season, considering we're talking about throwing knives, is obviously Assassin's Cowl. This is actually gameplay from Drewski. Assassin's Cowl essentially grants us the exotic perk Vanishing Execution. Defeating a Guardian with a melee attack or a combatant with a finisher grants invisibility and restores a portion of health and shields. Now, inside of PvP, as you see here with Drewski, it's quite potent. But with one-hit KO knives, going invisible, walking around, charging your knife throw up when someone comes around a corner to immediately get the one-hit KO, good God. You see where we're going with this? Obviously, the potency is there. Really, it kind of boils down to the knife throw itself and how long that wind-up time actually is. Either way it goes, Assassin's Cowl, which has kind of been utilized more with like our Arc Strider subclasses this past season, is definitely going to have a place amongst our gunslinger subclasses, specifically bottom tree gunslinger. Now, another exotic that I would look out for hunters, again reaching back in there to our knife throw, is of course Six Coyote. Now, Six Coyote grants us the exotic perk Double Dodge, which essentially just allows us to gain a second dodge charge. Obviously, combining this with something like Gambler's Dodge results in us always having a melee on hand. And if you combine this with perks like Outreach and Hands-On, you could probably run into a situation where you actually get your melee back even faster than something like Ophidia Spathe, depending on your cooldowns. On top of that, Six Coyote already is pretty evasive. Just having an extra dodge throws a lot of people off, especially if you're just trying to get out of a situation. So you've got the evasive maneuver of double dodging out of a situation, on top of giving yourself back a melee and proccing perks that also benefit that recharge rate. Now, the final exotic that I'm actually excited to use here on the Hunter subclass with the new gunslinger changes is Lucky Pants. Now, Lucky Pants grants us the exotic perk Illegally Modded Holster. Precision hits load 1 round to the chamber of stowed hand cannons. Hand cannons also ready faster and are more accurate immediately after swapping to them. Now, the real reason why I'm excited to see how this exotic pairs with Way of the Sharpshooter is because you're going to be proccing Practice Makes Perfect with every precision hit, as precision hits now will grant you 2 stacks. On top of that, during the process of getting those precision hits, you'll most likely be getting precision final blows, which increase weapon stability and ADS speed. So not only are we looking at a situation where our weapons, specifically our hand cannons, have draw speed relative relatively close to quick draw with Lucky Pants, but now you're gonna have increased weapon stability and ADS speed, and an increase in accuracy due to that exotic perk on Lucky Pants. Honestly, guys, I want to see Lucky Pants and Ariana's Vow next season together with the new Knock 'em Down perk, and practice makes perfect. So obviously, hunters have a very good lineup in synergy, but now we move on to the Warlock subclass, Attunement of Sky. This is top tree, and it's got a lot of changes coming to it as well. First up, there's actually a nerf hitting all of the Dawnblade subclasses, at least the Daybreak ones, where you will no longer be able to take advantage of Burst Glide to accelerate yourself in your Daybreak super. Now you have to depend on your Icarus Dash in order to gain that top momentum. Now, something I'm honestly extremely jealous about is that Cosmo actually confirmed that Icarus Dash will actually have 2 charges on top tree Dawnblade. That means you'll be able to dodge twice in a row, which is the equivalent of OG Twilight Garrison, like before it got nerfed. Yes, I'm extremely jealous. We also have a perk called Celestial Fire, which is the melee, which will send out a spiral of 3 explosive solar projectiles. They've also reworked Heat Rises, which will allow you to consume your grenade to extend your glide time even longer. And it also dramatically drops the in-air accuracy penalties for all weapons. So a lot of good stuff here. So let's hit the exotics that are gonna be looking pretty nasty for Attunement of Sky. First up, I'm really excited to try this with Claws of Hamkara. Hamkara! Essentially, guys, you just gain double melee with the exotic perk, the Whispers. Now, depending on the potency of that Celestial Fire melee, we really don't know how much damage it does, or even the ease of use or the range. It states that it sends off a spiral of 3 explosive solar projectiles. So I'm assuming it's got some pretty good range. Rocking something like Claws of Hamkara will allow us to have double the melee, meaning double the solar projectiles, thus resulting us possibly getting a double melee kill from great ranges. And it depends on the ease of use again, like whether or not the solar projectiles has any type of tracking on them, what's the AoE effect, how much does that damage taper off when it's not close to the enemy. Either way it goes though, having an extra melee greatly benefits this subclass, as Airborne Final Blow kills actually will grant you melee energy while simultaneously extending the duration of Heat Rises. So the flowchart way that I'm kind of looking at this is like, imagine going into the air, you've got a last word in your hand, you've got some in-air accuracy penalties, obviously, right? You double melee with Claws of Amkara, you get the kill. You recharge your melee immediately, and maybe they might even recharge both of your melees, but I'm not sure. You now have a weapon, which is arguably the deadliest weapon in the game, with no in-air accuracy penalties. You have options. You can now kill the guy in front of you with your last word in 0.5 seconds, or you can just rip him up again with melees. It really doesn't matter. Regardless, though, this could be really potent. Now, another exotic that we were looking at are the exotic gauntlets Sunbracers. Now, Sunbracers grants us the perk Helium Spirals, which increases the duration of our solar grenades, but solar melee kills grant unlimited solar grenade energy for a brief time. Now, no lie, when you proc that perk, you throw so many grenades, like a ton. On top of that, if you're rocking it with something like Enhanced Momentum Transfer, every time you damage someone with a grenade, you're reducing your melee cooldown even further. So already the synergy there is beautiful. But when you combine this with something like Heat Rises, which will allow you to consume your grenade if you so want to, on top of the ability to move through the air using Icarus Dash and other things and simultaneously throw grenades out, and the beautiful thing about that new Celestial Fire melee is that you can actually get a melee kill while you are in the air. You don't actually have to be close to targets. Like if this thing actually has pretty good range, and I'm thinking like 9 meters for the melee range here, maybe even more, you can proc Sunbracers without having to be on top of your target, which means you could start raining grenades on everyone below you. And again, throughout all of this, Airborne Final Blows are granting yourself melee energy, which just feeds right back into Sunbracers. This could be potent. Obviously, there's going to be like a skill curve to it, but it's looking to be pretty nasty. Now, speaking of grenades, obviously we have to bring up Starfire Protocol. Now, Starfire Protocol grants us an extra grenade with its exotic perk Fusion Harness, but it's only an extra fusion grenade. Not many people really use fusion grenades, despite fusion grenades granting you Rift energy. Honestly, Starfire Protocol works so well with Lumina. But depending, honestly, on the artifact mod next season, we may actually see an increase here in grenade damage on these solar subclasses. We saw it this season, the ability to one-hit kill with sticky grenades on the Sentinel subclasses. It takes just one artifact mod to give potency to our abilities. So fusion grenades could actually be a lot better next season. Either way it goes, all of the synergy that we just talked about with something like Sunbracers, you essentially get the same thing, but it has also a different skill curve. You obviously just can't spam grenades on the ground, but it doesn't require a melee to get a couple grenades off. Now, the final exotic that is going to be doing much better in the next season for a lot of reasons, but specifically because Bungie is buffing it, is Wings of Sacred Dawn. Out of all the exotics that we just talked about on the Warlock subclass, in regards to Top Tree Dawnblade, Wings of Sacred Dawn is looking to be the most valuable, as you will receive a buff of 15% damage resistance while the exotic perk Tomb of Dawn is active. Now, Tomb of Dawn is that perk that states that when Dawnblade is equipped, aiming weapons while you're in midair suspends you there for a short time. Weapon hits extends the effect's duration. Okay, all the synergy that we just mentioned just a second ago, we're getting airborne kills, grant melee energy, on top of proccing heat rises, and now we're gonna get 15% damage resistance when this perk is activated. You can imagine how every weapon type is gonna benefit here. We talked about sky sniping before. This is only gonna make it better, but that's not just the only weapon that's gonna do well here. Grenade launchers, my God, Mountaintop, pretty sure Mountaintop's not gonna be nerfed. Can you imagine consuming your grenade before you begin to glide, which reduces your in-air accuracy penalty, which Mountaintop really doesn't even have. But sure, let's make Mountaintop even more accurate. On top of that, you're gonna be able to tank 15% more damage. So when people are trying to shoot you when you're charging them with a Mountaintop, you see where I'm going with this? They're just gonna die. Either way it goes, that exotic is obviously gonna be potent next season, especially with the right weapon setups. Now, moving on to the Titan class Code of the Devastator, which is Middle Tree, aka Burning Maw. Never really been meta, despite the hammer size, right? Like when you see that big hammer, you'd think it's gonna stroke well, but it doesn't. Definitely lacking the motion of the ocean. But now, with all the buffs lined up for it, it's looking to be a little more potent. Essentially, guys, Throwing Hammer, which is our little mini hammer there, is gonna get an increase in impact damage from 100 to 120, as well as an increase in radius pickup. We're also gonna get an increase in damage bonus from Roaring Flames, going from 10% per stack to now 25% per stack inside of PvP, and an increased duration from 15 seconds to 20 seconds. Also, the Burning Maw super itself is getting a very large increase in duration to 28.5 seconds, as well as a reduction there in light attack costs from 5% to 3%. Either way it goes, it's looking pretty potent, which takes us to our exotics. First up, Syntheseps is an obvious choice here. Syntheseps grants us the perk Biotic Enhancements, which states increased melee range, improved melee and super damage when you're surrounded. It's actually really easy to proc. One thing that's beautiful about Biotic Enhancements is even when you get outside of the range of your enemies, it'll still hang with you for a second. We've actually done this before in the past where we actually take Roaring Flames times 3 and combined it with the power of Biotic Enhancements. The damage was very, very nice. Now with that increase in duration though for Roaring Flames, I won't be rushing as much to get the full benefits here of all of these things stacked together. Now another exotic that we're going to be looking at is obviously Worm God Caress. Now Worm God grants us the perk Burning Fist. Melee kills increase melee damage for a period of time. Additional kills extend duration and increase effects. Now, I honestly wish the duration for Burning Fist was longer. It's a very small time window there, but there's a reason for that. It's quite potent. We've seen it in action with a lot of different things. It packs a very mean punch. Inside of PvP with the mini hammer and Roaring Flames times 3, Worm God Caress will probably give us the ability to one-hit KO a lot of bosses. I know it used to in the past, especially with certain Nightfall modifiers. That is, of course, with us stacking a bunch of things, and things used to stack multiplicatively. But I think with these changes, Worm God Caress is going to be a potent option. Overall, guys, Worm God definitely going to be a nasty option. Now, another exotic, which kind of plays like a more passive role in all of this, but one that cannot be overlooked, is, of course, Hallowfire Heart. Hallowfire Heart grants us the exotic perk Sunfire Furnace. Improve the recharge rate of your solar abilities. It also greatly improves our recharge rate while our super is charged. Now, with all the stacks of Roaring Flames, with its duration there and its potency, obviously something like Hallowfire Heart combined with something like Thermite Grenades is going to be disgusting, especially for PvE. When you're just sitting there just clearing out ads, if you're spec for Discipline, you have Hallowfire Heart with a super, you'll probably always have a grenade on hand. But again, Hallowfire Heart benefits not just our grenade here, although that's a big one, but it actually benefits the recharge rate of all of our solar abilities. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, our fourth exotic, which has normally been an exotic exotic that I utilize with the Sentinel class is, of course, Heart of Inmost Light. Now, Heart of Inmost Light grants us the exotic perk Overflowing Light. Using an ability such as your grenade, melee, or barricade empowers the other two abilities. Powering means abilities have a faster regeneration, melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. The main thing to take away from this one is you get the benefit of that fast regeneration for all of your abilities without having to sit on your super with something like Hellfire Heart. Heart of Inmost Light has been my most used exotic this season, and I think it's going to be just as potent next season on Coda the Devastator. Now, with all of that being said, there was one, I guess you would say, honorable mention exotic that people demanded that I put on this list. My God, I have a very small group of people that think Khepri's Horn will be meta next season. I'm almost certain that this exotic still won't be meta. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I will eat my own words. But Khepri's Horn comes with the perk Solar Rampart. Solar damage kills recharge your barricade, which unleashes a blast of solar energy when summoned. Now, the wording there makes it sound like you're just sending this wave of fire to your enemies, and it is a wave, but it's very poopy. So maybe it will be meta. Maybe with these stacks of Roaring Flames lasting longer, maybe that stacking more into our barricade, increasing that blast damage, constantly keeping Roaring Flames ×3 on you at all times. Maybe. It's a big maybe, but maybe. Khepri's Horn might actually be meta. I'm not going to rule anything out. It's going to just require us to go into next season and try them all out. But these are the exotics, guys, that I am disclosing to you today that I will be trying out at the start of next season. Now, before I let you guys go, we like to do our sponsors at the end of the video. We have a sponsorship by Secret Labs. That's right. They make extremely comfortable chairs, and if you got back problems, man, this is the way to go. I've seen these chairs for years. I've seen other streamers use them. I didn't really want to believe into the hype because I bought a chair from Office Depot, and I was like, you know what? This $200 office chair is perfect. Why do I need anything else? My back continued to deteriorate, and I ended up injuring myself last year, but long story short, since purchasing MojoDesk and having a standing desk, as well as a Secret Labs chair when I sit down and that extra lumbar support, life has been much better. And fellas, if you got a healthy back, you got a healthy everything else. I'm just letting you know, everything else works right, okay? And it's important, because the older you get, the more things start to like break down. So consider a Secret Labs chair today, guys. It's good. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.